welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gorman Ruggiero, and I'm the author of a book called 30 Plays for Child Actors. This book is a culmination of 40 years of work with children in the theater, starting in the 1980s, early 1980s, and before that even. And I'd like to talk to you about why I wrote this book, why I collected all these plays over the years that I had written. And before I do that, I want to show you a video of some of my work from China. It's about a 6-minute video, and it'll give you a good introduction, better than I can give you. And so if you'll be patient, I will welcome questions, comments, critiques, observations after the video, and I'll go into more in depth about the book and its purpose. So now please enjoy this video. My name is Gorman Ruggiero. I'm a theater director, actor, producer, and playwright. I have worked with children for over 35 years developing theater productions for children, with children as the actors. When I came to the school, the English Experimental School, we talked about doing a version of Snow White. And through our discussions, I was really impressed with the teachers and the administration. They were talking about doing something with Chinese culture. So I asked them, well, maybe I can adapt the play with Chinese cultural elements, which we did. 50 children, which is unusual. There's not very many plays out there with 50 characters, but we have Snow White, we have the 8 pandas, we have bumblebees and plum blossoms and all kinds of other characters. And each child has speaking parts, movement, dance, and they sing. The purpose of this camp is to introduce children into the wondrous world of theater, to teach them acting, to teach them to use their imagination, but most importantly, to communicate. teach them how to communicate using physical, emotional, and intellectual content. I've been preparing for this camp for about 3 weeks. When I found out we had 50 students, I knew I had to write a play because there's very few plays out there with 50 characters, and you'll never find any for children with speaking parts. So I wrote this adaptation of Snow White with the intent of making sure every child had speaking roles. I wrote the play. I hired some fantastic artists. Rena is our dance director, choreographer. Hem is our musical director. He's also a virtuoso pianist. And we put our heads together and came up with a variety of different ideas to work with the songs and the dances. And I let them design their own work because they're the experts. So we kind of put our heads together and we came up with some really nice, interesting pieces that the children can perform. Each and every single child has improved in levels of confidence, articulation of English, and especially understanding emotional content and how to express it. Yes, everyone.
Hello, my name is Rena. I'm a dance director and a choreographer for the camp. I can see a lot of changes. They really, first day they were very shy, and day by day they really start to show them personality, confidence with us. It's really cute that kids can change in so fast time.
I'm William Brico from Manila, Philippines. I'm happy to join this company to make this winter camp. So I can teach them the nursery rhyme as well, alphabets, colors like shapes, and etc. for the kids. Ever since the camp started, I saw a lot of them there going well.
First of all, children, listen to me. Come to me. That's what I would like to say. I would also like to say Anjing and Ting Ma. But most importantly, I would like to say you did all your work. You made an agreement with me that you would work hard and have a great show, and you kept your agreement. And I want to thank you for keeping that agreement. Now, today, during this performance, just go and have fun. You did all the work. Remember your positions and go have fun.
Be themselves, relax, don't be shy, and don't think that they can do it, because I don't believe that I can do it. It's just I don't want to do it. So they must be relaxed, and everything will be okay.
Before you go out, just keep practicing, whatever they want.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I do every time I hear it. I want to thank Olivia for sending a message. She said that this video just melts her heart. Yes, they are precious. Thank you, Olivia Brown. Every time I see it, it's the same. Just wonderful, wonderful children. You'll notice that, let's see, Sam Diapana says, I have been waiting for your live, Mr. Gorman. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate you being here. So I want to talk about this wonderful book that is a culmination of 35 to 40 years of work. I have 30 plays in this book. I have many more plays, but I selected these 30 because I thought they were the most representative of the work. And it's very interesting because when I first started writing plays for children, something very unusual happened to me. In 1982, I was walking through a park and I saw a group of kids all huddled together. And it was an unusual scene because it was a beautiful day, and they were all just mesmerized by this little device one of the children held. And I looked at that and I thought, oh my goodness, it was a Game Boy or something. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is the future we're going to have to deal with. And from that moment on, I made it a point, and every time I work with children over the last 40 years, I always make a point to parents: manage the screen time of your children. Today, especially today, this is becoming more and more preeminent in terms of people's concerns for the mental health and the emotional health of their children. How does that tie into my work with 30 plays? Every play that I've ever done, I've always talked to the parents and spoke about why we need to keep children involved in interpersonal communication skills processes. Logan Rodriguez says, "How are you doing, Gorman? It's nice to see you around." Thank you, Logan. Appreciate that. So I'm always been, for the last 40 years, I have been promoting, advocating for children to be limited in the amount of time they spend in front of a screen. And in front of a screen, I mean in front of a cell phone, a computer, a movie screen, a television, or a computer in school even. So it behooves parents, and this also goes for parents of children who are on the autism spectrum. I've worked for many years with children on the spectrum, and I still do. So screen time is key. It's key you have to limit it. But first you have to know how much time they're spending. Please tell us the story of the young girl who was not confident in performing, and did she overcome it? Oh yes, Sam. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that right now. And I'm gonna go back to my theme of screen time. So I was working in a very famous girls' school on the main line outside of Philadelphia. And I was the middle school theater director, and I wrote all the plays. I would direct plays for the elementary school, the middle school, and all the girls performed in my shows. They actually called me the Vivaldi of Baldwin, because apparently Vivaldi worked at a girls' school and wrote a lot of his wonderful work, music for the girls. So we were doing a Dickens piece, and I'll remember it in a second. And everything was done. It was opening night. We had rehearsed it beautifully. Everyone was great. And one of the young gals came up to me and said, "Mr. Ruggiero, I can't talk." And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, I can't talk. I won't be able to say my lines. I can't talk. And she literally was, "I can't talk. I can't talk." So I looked at her for a moment. I said, "When did that happen?" She goes, "It happened this morning." I said, "Are you nervous about the play?" She goes, "Yeah, a little bit." I said, "Okay." And this is how I handled it. I said, "So don't worry about it. Make sure you drink a lot of water, get some cough drops. And when you go out on stage, don't talk." And she looked at me like I was crazy. And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Just don't talk. Mouth the lines. If you mouth the lines, the other actors will know what you're saying, because they memorize all their lines and they know all their cues." So she said, "Are you sure?" I said, "I'm positive. Just go do that." So when it was her time to come on stage, she was absolutely brilliant with a beautiful, loud voice, and she spoke wonderfully. How did that happen? Well, all I did was remove the pressure of her performing. I said, "Okay, you don't have to perform. Just go out and mouth the words. Can you do that?" "Yeah, I can do that." I said, "Okay." So many times it's important for people to understand, if you remove the pressure that's stopping children from doing something, and adults also, because we're all actually children, you can solve a lot of problems. So going back to that point, when I started working with children on the autism spectrum, I was mixing them in with typically developing children in my classes, but this was before we knew they were on the autism spectrum. In 1981 and 82 and 83, they were not diagnosing children with autism that often. They were calling them problem children, challenge children. So let me just interrupt again. For Joanne D. Ratner commented, "I agree that communication is extremely vital in our daily lives as social beings." I will tell you that communication skills is the most important thing. Interpersonal and intrapersonal communication skills is the most important subject a child can be involved in. Every other, whether it's English, math, science, history, other forms of art, everybody I've queried over the years, and I used to put a list of on the board when I did presentations, and they would always choose the most important thing for success in personal and professional lives is communication skills. So we already know all that. Yes, it's very important. So I would also follow up with a question, well, how come we do not have formal communication skills programs in the schools? And no one can answer that question. No one wants to answer that question. I've dealt with it for 40 years. I had one school in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, who actually did formalize a plan for 2 years that I worked with. But they have other other priorities. Nevertheless, so when I started working with those children and going back to the reticence of what they called the problem children in the class with the typically developing children, they would come in and they would just hide behind the chairs. They would look at other things. They would occupy themselves with everything except the work we were doing. So let me get back to that after I answer. Heather R. Taylor commented, in regard to your perspective of what autism is like, did it change when you met the children and trained them? Thank you for that very good question, Heather. I was training children on the autism spectrum before I realized they were on the autism spectrum. In 1982, the school I worked at, Lake Avenue Elementary School in Saratoga Springs, New York, they did not recognize that it was autism. They thought it was just challenged children. They had emotional issues. They had social problems. They didn't call it autism because these were undiagnosed children. It was only in the 90s, the mid 90s, when I started formally working with children on the autism spectrum in mental health clinics that I recognized, my goodness, these are the same issues and characteristics of the children I had worked with in the early 80s in Saratoga Springs. Those children must have been on the autism spectrum, but they weren't diagnosed. So my plan for those children was very simple. I invited them into my classroom, and I would say, there's only 3 rules. You don't have to get up and perform in front of the class. You don't have to participate. You just can't interrupt my class. That's number 2. And number 3, you can't leave the room without another adult guiding you out or without permission. And so a lot of these children who were on the spectrum would wander around the room and they wouldn't interrupt my class. They were very good about that. And they would, just fixate on different parts of the room. And once they established that it was a safe space, because many children on the spectrum have to know they're in a place that's safe. And what do? They look at everything. They count panels on the wall. They count tiles. They count patterns. They recognize patterns. And once they feel comfortable, they get involved. The other thing that happened is I would ask the children who weren't participating, did you see what they did? Can you tell me what they did? And I would question them about the ongoing work. And eventually they became comfortable enough to get involved. So, yes, I have a question from Eleanor Leavelle. I hope that's the pronunciation. Is nonverbal communication as important as verbal communication? Absolutely. Almost more important. Nonverbal communication, which includes emotional content and physicality, is probably more important than verbal communication, because a lot of times the things we say are not what we really mean. But there's an exercise I do with children and adult actors also. I have them say a sentence, like, for instance, I love the dog. Okay. And they say it in different ways. Like, okay, I love that dog. Or they could say, I love that dog. Or they could say, I love that dog. 3 different interpretations of the same line. So the emotional content and the physical communication is very key. So I start with my children, typically developing, and children on the spectrum, as well as other children with special needs who are in my programs. We always start with physical work first for 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes up to 9 or 10 weeks. I'm currently working with 2 nonverbal children who are on the spectrum. Very, very brilliant children, 2 young. One is a 13-year-old, and the other one is a 6-year-old, and they're absolutely brilliant. They communicate in a lot of different ways, but they can't speak. They know their numbers. They know their colors. They know their shapes. They know they can listen to you. You can give them a suggestion, and they respond beautifully. The 13-year-old cooks his own food the whole deal. They can't speak. So physical communication is very, very key. And nonverbal means physical and emotional content. Ruby H. Bonin, I hope, if I don't get the name correct, please forgive me. Is it true that if we keep on practicing talking in front of an audience, we also enhance our skills in communication since we get used to it? Absolutely, positive, 100%. Absolutely. So I'll tell you this, Ruby. So many people who are reticent to get up in front of an audience should remember that most of the time, almost 100% of the time, you're going in front of an audience of human beings. Most of them who are there because they want to be there. They want to be either entertained or they came to listen to you. And they're basically nice people. Most of the people you're going to be in front of are generally good people who will give you the benefit of the doubt. Okay? So basically, if you're in a theater or a movie, you're going into the theater saying, okay, if you can convince me that what you're doing is real, I'm all good and I'll believe you. But if you insult my intelligence, then I'm going to get irritated. So the people in the audience is already on your side. That's the thing you have to remind yourself. Pauline J. Durgan commented, what does it take to be an effective speaker who is good at communication? It takes studying speaking and studying communication skills. It's very simple. Children who are, I start my actors from 4 to 6 years old. However, I do work with younger children in communication skills processes with the parents present. And that's just like relationship building with toddlers and parents. But the communication skills from 4 to 6 years old, we start with physical activity. And I teach children how to recognize, interpret, and produce physical communication skills. What does a gesture mean? What does a facial expression mean? What does your body expression mean when you're moving? And we literally study it. So in the first class that I work with children, every child is asked to critique what they saw. Okay, and that is an interactive process where we do an exercise, and then I ask the children, "What did you see? Tell me what you saw. Don't tell me what you think you saw. Tell me exactly what you saw." Hanson Cray comments, hi, Gorman. Are there any topics you avoid or do not involve in a play? Yes, I don't discuss anything in plays for children that are inappropriate to their age. I don't discuss sexuality. I'm not interested in sexuality. That's something that's a totally different facet of child rearing and education. I deal with what I think are the most basic fundamental elements of growing up and being able to communicate your emotions through physical, emotional, and intellectual content. I avoid swear. I don't allow the kids to use dirty words or swearing. They hear enough of that all elsewhere. They don't need to hear it in my class. That's basically what I tell them and the parents, and they get it. They all get it. Pauline J. Durgan commented, can you share us the rewarding aspects of both writing for the stage and coaching theater kids? It is I think it's the most fulfilling work I've ever done. So, because we're meeting children at their most fundamental personas. We're meeting them for who they really are. So you saw the video with the Chinese children. In the beginning, they were very reticent, very stiff. Most Chinese children are not like American children. American children are very open to physicality. They'll run around. In fact, for the most part, when I work with American children, I have to find a way to guide them and give them boundaries. With Chinese children, they have a totally different lifestyle. I have to try to open them up and get them to move. If you go see many Chinese plays, you will notice there are many, many straight lines. Everyone ends up in a straight line. I was directing even adults in shows in China. At the end of the rehearsal, everyone would be in a straight line. After I'd made all this beautiful blocking movement, they'd end up in a straight line. So it's very fulfilling to get them to break through those barriers. With the American children, it's great to get them to learn discipline and boundaries. And with the Chinese children, it's great to watch them expand and grow. Parker Brooks says, what was the most memorable moment of training the children? Okay, I will give you a couple. So I work with children who are 4 to 6, 7 to 9, 12 to 13, and then 14 to adult. And those are the groups I generally break the kids up. Do some children cross over? Yes, depending on their own personal development, psychological development, emotional development. So they all learn their own lines. I have never had a person with I have never had a prompter. I hope everyone knows what a prompter is. If you don't, a prompter is a person who has the script sitting in front of the stage, prompting the children when they miss their line. We don't do that. My children learn their lines. And then if they don't know their line, they have to improvise. So one of the most memorable moments, and there were many of them, where the children would be on stage in front of an audience of 800 people, 4 to 6 year olds, and they get to a point in the play where somebody forgets the line. What do? They stop, they discuss it, they work it out, and then they continue the play. They didn't even think about the audience. They weren't embarrassed. They weren't nervous. They just stopped, thought about it, and said, oh, yeah, well, that's my line. That's your, oh, okay. And then they start over as they were trained. I said, okay, take it back from this line and go through it again. And that's what they do. Those are the most memorable moments. When the children are on stage making some kind of inadvertent, unprepared activity and fixing it themselves, solving problems. So Martin Trent commented, do you ever incorporate their ideas into the actual storyline, or is it more for engagement? No, Martin, I always incorporate their ideas. I cannot tell you how many times children say, well, can't we have this and can't we have that? Because they're very creative. Once they loosen up, they're very creative. And yes, I do incorporate a lot of sometimes they'll change a line and I say, well, why'd you say that? And they say, well, I think this works better. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Sometimes I'll say, well, no, it won't work better, but find another line you want to change. This one we have to keep, because that particular line may hold information the audience needs to know so they can follow the storyline. But many times children incorporate a lot of their own creative impulses. Yes. Cecilia W. McCall comments, how do you approach the collaborative process of working with actors and directors when bringing your plays to life on stage? The collaborative process of working with actors and directors. Actors, let me just say it this way. I was raised in the form of theater where the director was more of an initiator. Jerzy Grotowski, he was the director and creator of the Polish Laboratory Theater in the 60s in Warsaw, Poland. His whole theory of director-actor relationship was completely different. And I took that on in my work. Really, I initiate activities for the children to follow through on. I will give them a line of blocking movement on stage and say, well, you're going to go here, 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 and here. But the child says, well, can I move over here instead? I say, why do you want to move over there? Sure, move over there. As long as they get as long as they communicate what the audience needs to know to understand the storyline and the emotional content of the character and the motives of the character, they're free to roam. So yes. And also remember, the director or initiator also has to balance the stage picture. Stage picture has to be balanced. It's something most people in the audience don't understand. But the stage picture has to be balanced all the time, like taking a photo. So it's like a movie. Every shot is well planned. Maya J. Cooper comments, what tips or techniques do you offer aspiring playwrights to bring their characters to life on stage? Have fun with the people that you create and let them run themselves. I would pick something that you're interested in, pick a story or make up a story that you're interested in presenting, and you should really fall in love with the characters and have fun. Even if it's a drama, a dramatic piece, you have to have fun and enjoy it. I have a question that was presented to me last night. It was from Avery Kellington, and she asked, are any of the plays fully original plays or just the ones you collected? Yes, many of my plays are completely original. One of my best musicals is Stefan, the Pip and the Stolen Star, and it addresses this whole social media screen time stuff that I started talking about at the beginning of this broadcast. So I would like to say thank you for attending this short session. And if you have any other questions or comments, feel free to email me or go through this site. And I'm very appreciative of your attention. Don't forget to buy my book, 30 Plays for Child Actors. You can read these plays with your children or with your students or with your adult friends. They're perfectly readable for game night or movie night. Take out a script, do a couple plays before your movie, before your games. Thank you, and have a great night. I'll be back here tomorrow night, and we'll go more into the social media issues surrounding what children need to do differently from now on. Thank you very much.